everyone, hope you all are well. The first thing I'm doing today, as always, is priming the eyes with the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion, and I'm using now a Sigma 3D HD precision brush just to buff and blend this into the skin around the eye, anywhere that I'll be adding shadow. And I always say this, but this brush is really great for this step due to its shape. After I've carved out the shape of my brows, I use this brush just to buff the concealer down to the lash line, and it ensures that I keep the sharpness right at the base of the brow. My palette of choice today is the Sorbet palette from Colourpop, which contains these gorgeous pinky mauve tones. And the first shadow I'm starting off with is called Extra Syrup, which is the shadow down on the bottom left hand side of the palette. Extra Syrup is a relatively warm toned light mauve eyeshadow and it has a matte finish to it. I've just picked this up on a fluffy brush from Crown Brush and I'm using sweeping motions and then little circular motions to apply this shadow into the crease. And I've started out by applying this shade on the outer portion of my eye. I'm slowly but gradually working my way across the crease to the inner portion of the eye, and then I'm placing my brush on the edge of that shadow and flicking upwards to give me an elongated shape to the eyes. And then when I've little to no product left on my brush now, I'm placing it down on the edge of the shadow and I'm sweeping back and forward, moving my brush upwards a little higher each time just to fade out that shadow, that I have a nice gradual fade the closer to the brow bone that I get. So I'm adding a second layer of this shadow now, this time tapping a little down on the outer third of the lid before repeating the same process again. And I'm just building up the intensity. I want a nice opaque finish to my shadow, and this shade applied and blended nicely, as you can see, with little to no fallout. Then I'm taking a small bullet shaped brush. This one is a little pencil brush from the brand Royal and Langnickel, I think. There's no markings on it, but I'm pretty sure. And I'm just sweeping that shadow down now all the way along the lower lash line, making sure to sweep it up onto the lid so that it connects with the shadow there and there's no gaps in sight. Then I'm taking the shadow on the bottom right hand side of the palette. This is called Drizzled and it's nearly more of a deeper kind of almost reddy brown shade, and this is a matte finish to it too. I've taken this up on a smaller fluffy blending brush. This is the Sedona Lace EB09 Universal Blending Brush. I'm patting this down on the outer third of the eye and then I'm sweeping it into the crease, keeping it in the deepest part of the crease because I suppose, well, the majority of the shadow anyway, because I don't want to cover up the work that I've done. I do naturally want them to fade together though, so like in the previous step, once I feel that I've little to no product left on my brush, I'm raising it up higher in the crease just so that I can merge those two shades together. And then as you can see now, once I was happy enough with how that looked, I've just taken a second helping of that shadow on my brush and I'm repeating the process now. Tapping the shadow down on the outer third of the eye, sweeping the shadow into the crease, always making sure when I reach that outer corner that I'm sweeping the brush upwards and outwards at an angle to help elongate the eyes. So I've moved back to my pencil brush now and I'm taking another bit of that Drizzle shade and I'm sweeping this down along the lower lash line and then pulling what's left on my brush downwards ever so slightly, because like above, I want to blend this colour in with the previous shade. Like always then, I'm looping the shadow up onto the lid so that everything blends nicely together. Next, I'm taking that warm toned pink metallic shadow on the top right hand corner of the palette. I've picked this up on a C-shaped brush from Sigma. I've spritzed my brush with some of the Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray in the glow version, just to give an extra boost to those shimmery particles, and I'm patting this down on the eyelid on the outer portion of the eye, bringing it towards the center of the lid. And what I like to do is then I have applied a wet layer, so I like to apply a dry layer on the top. I can't tell you really why I do this. It's just something I don't know. I just find the particles maybe appear more vibrant because they're over the top of a kind of sticky wet base. Who knows? I don't really have any logic for it. I just kind of like the effect. Then I'm taking the shade on the top left hand side. This is called Glazy and it's a light warm toned peachy shade with a shimmer finish. I've just applied this the same way as the previous shade. I'm coating now the remaining inner half of the eyelid, and once I reach the center I'm just kind of patting over between the two just to make sure those two shadows fade nicely into one another. And then I'm going back in now with a little bit of that warm kind of reddy brown shade on a pencil brush. I'm sweeping over the edges and into the crease just so that I do have a distinct I suppose line between the shimmery shades and the matte shades. And then I'm taking this kind of creamy nudie toned liner pencil from Colourpop and I'm just placing this inside the eye just on the inner lower waterline. I'm running the pencil back and forward just so that I suppose the eyes look a little bit bigger and brighter, and I'm not really great at this step. Sometimes I poke myself in the eye, but look, it is what it is. Then I've applied some eye lower lashes, and what I like about these lashes is they've got a kind of thick dark lash band, so I don't need to apply any liner or anything along the lash line. I didn't want to do that because I wanted this look to be nice and kind of pink and fresh and girly, and then I didn't want to have to reach for another palette either. So this look is done entirely off that Colourpop palette, which is cheap as chips. And yeah, I've just used the Lash It All mascara from Lancome to coat my bottom lashes and to blend my own lashes in with the false ones, and then that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful and easy to follow. If you did, please do let me know, and I'll catch you all really soon.